Imagine a city that, if it vanished tomorrow, would cause you to feel the shock immediately at your gas pump early the very next morning. Houston is not just another urban sprawl. It is the vital main artery of the entire American economy, pumping energy through the veins of a global superpower every day. 30% of the total oil refining capacity of the United States is concentrated within a narrow strip of Texas land, according to data confirmed by S&P Global. The Port of Houston leads the nation in waterborne cargo volume, surpassing the massive industrial hubs of New York and Los Angeles by handling millions of tons of goods annually. But there is a dark secret that the massive oil corporations do not want you to know regarding the long-term survival of this industrial powerhouse and its sinking future. This city is not merely being attacked by hurricanes from above, it is literally collapsing and sinking into the earth from deep beneath the very ground we walk on. No seawall or massive concrete barrier can stop this silent descent, because the geological foundations of the city are failing at an alarming rate that engineers cannot fix. Why do geological experts now describe Houston as a massive bowl that is simply waiting to be filled with the catastrophic floodwaters of the next major Category 5 storm? Why did a storm in 2017 cause 21 firefighters to be hospitalized after a chemical plant exploded when the cooling systems failed during the height of the flood? And why has a $35 billion project approved by Congress received almost zero federal funding to date, leaving the entire energy corridor of America completely exposed to ruin? In this video, I will show you why Houston is facing a disaster born of 100 years of human arrogance and why the entire nation will pay the price. But before I reveal the worst-case scenario, let me explain why everyone once believed that the city of Houston was an invincible fortress against the raw power of the ocean. We must examine how this swamp became a titan before we can understand the terrifying gravity of the collapse that is currently threatening to erase it from the map forever. The countdown to an economic meltdown has already started, and the signs are buried deep in the clay layers beneath the gleaming skyscrapers of the fourth largest American city. In 1836, Houston was founded on a swampy land that nobody actually wanted, a place filled with nothing but thick mud, aggressive mosquitoes, and tangled bayous. Everything changed forever when oil was discovered, transforming this humid wasteland into a global center for energy, wealth, and seemingly endless industrial growth for over a century. Houston rapidly evolved into the fourth largest city in the United States, with over 4 million people calling the sprawling Harris County area their permanent home today. For decades, residents and engineers praised the natural network of bayous as a technical miracle, believing these winding channels could safely drain any storm water back into the ocean. Global corporations moved their headquarters here, building a massive petrochemical complex along the Houston Ship Channel that is currently worth hundreds of billions of dollars in infrastructure. To support such an enormous population and thousands of thirsty factories, the city required a staggering amount of water, searching deep underground for a reliable source. Starting in the early 20th century, the city began aggressively pumping groundwater from the deep Chicotangent Evangeline Aquifer, located hundreds of feet beneath the surface of the Texas soil. During this period of rapid expansion, nobody stopped to ask what would happen when we removed the very liquid that was supporting the weight of the city from below. The answer was ignored because everyone was focused on the immediate profits of the oil boom and the glittering promise of a modern metropolis rising from the mud. Since the 1940s, the water level within the aquifer has plummeted by over 300 feet, leaving behind vast, empty spaces in the geological layers under the city. Physics dictates that something must eventually fill that void, and the massive weight of skyscrapers and highways began to crush the dry clay layers into a thinner profile. This transition from a humble swamp to a global titan was built on a foundation of hollow earth, a geological debt that is now coming due for collection. The illusion of permanence is fading away as the surface of the earth begins to betray the very people who thought they had finally conquered the natural world. You might think this is a slow process that we can simply ignore, but the official data from the United States Geological Survey tells a much more terrifying story. I am about to show you exactly how fast the ground is moving, and it will change how you look at every coastal city on this entire planet. Houston sits on top of a very thick and porous layer of clay that behaves much like a giant, wet sponge buried deep beneath the urban surface. When you take a wet sponge and squeeze the water out, the material collapses and can never truly regain its original, expanded shape or structural volume again. This is exactly what is happening to the geological foundation underneath 4 million people as we continue to extract massive amounts of groundwater every single day. As we pump water out, the heavy weight of the city crushes these clay particles together, causing a permanent and irreversible collapse of the very earth itself. The United States Geological Survey has been carefully measuring this silent phenomenon for over 40 years, and the results of their study are absolutely chilling to witness. Since 1836, the excessive pumping of groundwater has caused approximately 3,200 square miles of the Houston area to sink by more than 1 full foot. But that is only the average. In the industrial zone of Pasadena, the ground has dropped by over 10 feet since the mid-20th century due to industrial use. In Spring Branch, where 2 major highways intersect, the earth has visibly sunk 4 feet since 1975, leaving infrastructure and buildings struggling to remain stable. This uneven sinking is a total catastrophe for the drainage system because the natural bayous were designed to let water flow slowly toward the Gulf of Mexico. When the ground sinks unevenly, the gentle slope of the entire drainage network is reversed, preventing water from escaping and turning the city into a giant, deep bowl. Subsidence does not happen smoothly across the landscape. Instead, it triggers dangerous geological faults that slice through neighborhoods and destroy the integrity of expensive highway foundations. Since the late 1930s, more than 86 active geological faults have been officially identified within the city limits, causing cracks in roads and shattering underground pipes. Perhaps the most heartbreaking example of this loss is the San Jacinto Battleground Historical Park, where the legendary monument of Texas independence is slowly being swallowed. This masonry column is the tallest in the world, yet parts of this hallowed historical site now sit permanently underwater because the ground has literally disappeared. By the early 2020s, northwestern areas like Katy and Jersey Village were recorded sinking at speeds of 1 to 3 centimeters every single year. While the land is falling downward, the global sea level is simultaneously rising, creating a deadly geological scissor effect that is closing in on the city's future. We are witnessing a slow-motion collision between human engineering and the relentless laws of physics, a battle where gravity never loses and the earth never forgets. Most residents go about their daily lives without noticing that their homes are inches lower than they were when they first signed the mortgage papers years ago. But the engineers at Rice University and the experts at the United States Geological Survey know that this silent sinking is preparing the city for a massacre. This is not just about a few inches of elevation. It is about the complete failure of the infrastructure that keeps millions of lives safe and dry. When the next major storm hits, the water will find every new inch of depth that we have created by pumping our aquifers dry over the past century. We have essentially built a trap for ourselves, and every year we stay in this city, the walls of that trap get just a little bit higher. The geological debt is no longer a theoretical problem for the future. It is a physical reality that is cracking the very ground beneath our feet. The question is no longer if the city will sink, but how much more damage we will cause before we finally stop extracting what keeps us stable. All of this subsidence, all of these faults, and all of this drainage failure are merely the stage being set for a truly nightmare scenario. I am about to show you what happens when all these geological flaws meet a direct hit from a storm that makes Hurricane Harvey look small. In August 2017, Hurricane Harvey arrived not as the ultimate disaster, but rather as a terrifying warning shot across the bow of the entire American industrial empire. This massive storm delivered a crushing blow that resulted in over $125 billion in total damages, according to official data confirmed by the national weather agencies. Harvey became the wettest tropical cyclone in United States history, dumping a staggering 1,539 millimeters of rain over the small town of Nederland, Texas. During the peak of the flooding, 30% of the entire oil refining capacity of the United States was forced to shut down immediately, causing ripples through global markets. However, the most terrifying reality is that Harvey actually hit west of the city. meaning the core industrial zones avoided the direct force of the strongest hurricane winds. Even with this lucky miss, over 40 separate industrial sites, including petrochemical plants and toxic waste facilities, released over 8 million pounds of dangerous pollutants into the air. On August 31st, 2017, the chief executive of Arkema issued a desperate warning that their chemical plant in Crosby was about to explode because the flood destroyed cooling. At 2 in the morning, two massive explosions rocked the facility, sending 21 brave firefighters to the hospital after they inhaled the toxic fumes while attempting to secure the perimeter. Researchers at Rice University have used advanced computer modeling to simulate what would happen if a major category storm made a direct hit on the vital Houston Ship Channel. Their results show a terrifying storm surge reaching 22 to 24 feet high, which would completely overwhelm the industrial foundations that have sunk significantly over the last century. Over 2,000 massive storage tanks containing crude oil, industrial chemicals, and toxic hazardous materials would be fully submerged and battered by the violent power of the incoming surge. Many of these enormous containers are not bolted down, meaning they will float and turn into heavy waterborne battering rams that smash into other critical and sensitive infrastructure. Engineers at Rice University warned that these floating containers would become unstoppable hammers, breaking open other tanks and creating a toxic sludge that could never be fully cleaned. This scenario would transform the entire Gulf Coast into a poisonous wasteland, effectively destroying the economic heart of Texas and poisoning the water supply for millions of innocent residents. The ripple effects of such a catastrophe would not stop at the Texas border, but would instead paralyze the supply chains of nations across the entire globe immediately. After Harvey alone, countries like Mexico and Brazil felt the sharp pain of supply disruptions in the chemical and energy markets, proving how fragile the global system truly is. If a direct hit occurred today, 40% of the jet fuel production for the entire United States could vanish overnight, grounding thousands of flights and stopping international travel. The energy that moves everything in your modern life flows through this narrow, sinking channel in Texas, making every citizen a stakeholder in the survival of this one city. Whether you live in New York, London, or Tokyo, you will feel the economic shock at the gas pump and in your monthly grocery bills within a few short days. Everything we consume moves by energy, and currently, a massive portion of that energy is sitting in a geographical bowl that is sinking lower into the earth every year. We are playing a dangerous game of chance with the laws of nature, betting that the next major hurricane will simply miss the target for just one more lucky year. But as the ground continues to sink and the sea continues to rise, the target becomes much larger and much easier for the ocean to hit with devastating physical force. This is the energy apocalypse that experts fear the most, a sudden and total collapse of the infrastructure that supports the very lifestyle of the modern Western world today. So what exactly is the United States government doing to protect the most important economic artery of the nation from this inevitable and catastrophic meeting with the rising sea? There is a plan, a massive $35 billion project designed to build a wall against the ocean, but the reality of its progress is even more shocking than bound. As of April 11th, 2026, this project remains a ghost, a promise on paper that has no money to become a reality. While the Earth continues to sink, the Coastal Protection Plan is officially known as the Coastal Texas Project, but most people living in the area simply refer to it as the massive Ike-Dike gate system. This massive engineering effort involves building giant gates across the mouth of Galveston Bay to block a 22-foot storm surge from entering the industrial heart of the city. While the original cost was estimated at $35 billion, inflation and decades of construction will likely push the final price tag toward $57 billion very soon. Congress officially approved this project in 2022, but as of today, the federal government has contributed a pathetic amount of only $5.5 million total. To finish this barrier on time, the project requires at least $2 billion every single year for 20 consecutive years, a funding goal that remains completely out of reach. This creates a deadly paradox, where the most critical economic artery of the nation is officially protected on paper, but left entirely vulnerable to the ocean in the physical world. Even if we find the money to build the highest walls on Earth, we cannot escape the terrifying fact that the ground inside those walls is still sinking away. You can build a concrete wall to stop a storm, but you cannot build anything that will stop the relentless force of gravity from pulling the entire city downward forever. Houston is currently locked in a desperate race against time and geology, a competition where the ocean rises while the foundation beneath the people is slowly but surely disappearing. The story of this city is not just about a local disaster, it is a global lesson about the heavy price of human arrogance and our failure to respect nature. We must now ask ourselves if America is truly willing to sacrifice billions of dollars to save a city that is fundamentally losing its battle with the solid earth itself. When the next storm arrives and the global supply chains fail, you will remember this warning while watching the fuel prices skyrocket at every single gas station across the world. Do you believe the United States will ever finish the Ike decay system before the next major hurricane destroys the economy? Or is this a gamble we have already lost? Please share your thoughts in the comments below and subscribe to our channel for more deep investigations into the hidden forces that are currently shaping the future of our planet. The clock is ticking for the city of Houston, and every second we wait for a solution brings us closer to a day when the map will be redrawn forever.